This little autoloader is a nightmare for the enemy team, and of course today's video we are looking at the TL7 Black, or at least the TL7. They are essentially the exact same tank, but the TL7 is of course a 4-round autoloader at tier 9, and this is a very strong, powerful tank that has the ability to not only deal a ton of damage but also has the ability to spot for your team, and we're going to see a combination of that in today's video. We're going to show how you can kind of maybe play a tank that is similar to this, and of course how you can defeat the common meta on Erlenberg, which is sitting and camping on either side of the hill dependent on which side you spawn. So first things first, what we do here is we push up to try and get some free shots of damage on people, like for example the E50, and when we go to this location here it is super easy to be able to do that. We track the E50, which is nice, you can do this yourself, and because the intricate reload of the TL7 is very good, to the point where you're able to fire off multiple shells pretty quickly, we can essentially get a lot of damage and retrack opponents quite nicely. And there you go, we pick up a ton of assistance and a ton of damage at the very beginning of the game just from simply knowing a decent spot at the beginning. Now this tank primarily features around a kind of 390 alpha damage gun that has 4 shots, that's capable of dealing nearly 1560 damage essentially, and you can see here the Bellerophon has unfortunately made the same mistake that everyone else has, and unfortunately we don't manage to capitalize on it since we miss a few rounds. But the 705A is trying to side scrape out. We try and go for the cupola, don't hit it, of course, not surprised there, but we do get at least 1 shot of damage on the enemy tanks as they move up, which gives us a little bit more assistance and also a little bit more damage. Now our E50, or whatever the medium is, that's decided to YOLO the 705A, obviously comes out side on, takes a hit, and yeah, I mean, great trading from him. But I mean, the 705A is gone, and so that means that we are in a position to start playing the game a little bit differently to how we've been doing it right now. And by that I mean that we're able to start pushing towards the opponent's hill, because this tank has decent camo, because of the fact it has good view range. We can push up, and you can see me going straight for the bridge over on the right hand side of the map, since if we can get there it's going to be nice. We're going to be able to deal a lot of damage, and we're also going to be able to spot for our team, which is the key thing. Spotting on Erlenberg is going to give you so much assistance if you can manage to get into a position to do that. And that's exactly what we're attempting now, and maybe we'll actually be able to pull it off, but I guess you can wait and see as we go through this game. We do have another game for you, so we'll cover a little bit of something extra that isn't just purely a combined damage game, and maybe looking at how you can deal damage in particular in this sort of tank. But you see me here just pushing up. Now this is a risky push, you don't want to be doing it straight away at the beginning of the game, but what you can do is start pushing up. Now the T58 Heavy, obviously we're in a bit of a vulnerable position right now. If he does decide to just YOLO over the hill, it's not going to be worth it for him if he does, but you should, if I was looking back on my own gameplay, maybe I would have moved slightly earlier. I wouldn't have waited to try and get that shot off, but hey ho, we do what we do. The FE215B obviously tries to get a shot on our teammate there, which he does, but we managed to hit him and pen him and track him, and yeah, I mean, it didn't go too well for him, but we do pick up 2,600 damage now with over 3,000 assistance, which is very nice. I mean, a game like this, you'd probably be looking at trying to get yourself a mastery badge with a game like that, but obviously the enemy team don't like the fact that I'm actually here spotting for my team, because it's annoying, and of course it is a pretty strong position. The only way they can really dig you out is if they YOLO or you overcommit on a side or something like that, and of course that's not ideal. Now you see me waiting to start pushing up until I see that the FE215B on the enemy team is taken out, because we don't want to be getting hit for 1900 or anything like that. Not that we can in this tank, given that it only has 1500 health, which is not very good, but still, Leopard 1 obviously decides he's a big boy gamer, and decides to try and crest the ridge to only get double hit And then, yeah, I mean, the very nice T-58 decides to overcrest and takes us out. So, I mean, not a bad play from him. Got us out the game, but it does end our game right there, even if the enemy team are guaranteed to lose at this point, essentially, with them just being absolutely peppered with rounds from all kinds of corners. But, yeah, a very nice little game. And of course our team carry us on through. We can see the victory screen right here, because obviously I'm not surprised the enemy team just failed their way. But there we go, a victory screen is quite nice. We pick up 3,990 damage, 1,937 base experience, which means you had a good game. And of course picked up nearly over 9,000 damage in combined, or at least nearly there. Mastery badge, no surprise there, and just a fantastic game. If you were going for your marks of excellence, this is the sort of game that you want to be having. So let's jump into the next gameplay and I'll see you in a second. Now then, the next game is on the Heilbronn and we're going to see yet again a tier 10 matchmaking game. And to the right of me you're seeing the very balanced and perfectly unbroken Centurion AVRE. I'm sure you guys can agree that, yeah, it's a very bad tank if you think about it, really. I mean, yeah, pretty bad. And you know, I guess when we're playing in a tank destroyer that has 1500 health, you know, it's very nice when you start getting hit by those sorts of tanks, FE215B 183s, etc. Yeah, it always tastes very good, especially when, even if you use all of your shells in this tank, you probably couldn't do the same amount of damage. But either way, I digress. The TO7 Black, we're taking in an early position, hoping that I can get some free damage on people that try and cross directly in front of me. Because it does often happen, they'll come YOLOing on down to try and get onto the corner, and you can get some easy damage. And similarly, you can also get damage on people that start pushing up to just to the left, just in front where my cursor just was. So essentially, you can get a little bit of damage from there. Unfortunately, we don't currently within this game, but you know, maybe we can get some damage on this Tiger too. No, because he gets taken out too quickly. Oh, balls. We haven't got any damage at the beginning of the game, which is never good when you're in an autoloader. It's always good to get off a full clip. It's really powerful because everyone's on full health. They're probably only going to be able to do one shot of damage to you, and you're going to be able to deal, you know, all of your clip to them because they have the hit points to take multiple shots, which is always good. Obviously in the late game, autoloaders, not as much damage to be had, but you, of course, you're more of a threat to just taking them out if they've received, you know, 1 or 2 hits. Now we're getting kind of lucky to actually hit all of our shells there on the Conway, but you know, do bounce the final one, probably hit the mantler of the Conway, so no surprise that it bounced there. I mean, the Conway is a bit of a troll tank with regards to its armor. The mantler of that tank often bounces just rounds that it probably shouldn't do, and of course, yeah, it happens all the time. And it's usually by accident that you even hit the mantler, and then when it bounces, yeah, it's always a good feeling, and especially if it's got the big gun as well. But the Conway isn't broken, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying it's definitely a bit of a troll. And when you play it, you feel like you get penned everywhere, including the mantler, but when you play up against it, you seem to always bounce off of that mantler. If you do get unlucky with the RNG and you're aiming, you know, at the side of the turret or something, it always seems to be attracted to that gigantic mantler that it does have. But in this game, you know, pretty slow one to begin with, but you can see in the western side of the map that the enemy team have basically taken the entirety of the town. In this map, you probably don't want to take the town since you have to cross an open field, and it's very difficult for you to actually win from the town when you do push there, since you just meet all of the camping TDs that are sat on the hill, and of course they're just going to farm you up as you go. But obviously, if you win this side that we're on, you can stop anyone that might have pushed into the town. You can set up crossfires and stuff like that. But of course, you just need to actually try and win the town. Now then, we find ourselves a tasty little snack, the Kranvang on the enemy team, who is of course trying to go hull down, which is great. And then he decides to expose the entirety of his hull, which is, I mean, you're in a hold down monster and you decide to load or give everyone the hull armor or the rear of your tank. Fantastic play right there. Of course, please, if you are a Cranvan player, don't expose your hull armor when you could just use your turret, and of course you're not going to get penned then. But we push up, we see ourselves up against a Turan and a Udes that are over here, and of course have to keep a close eye on the people behind us, because, you know, even if they are down by so many tanks, if they all jump in the cap circle, we all know what that feels like, especially when you're, you know, in a game where maybe you had like 10 tanks left alive and only 3 on the enemy team, they all got in the cap and you lost, because, you know, that would work in reality. You know, 3 people could take out a cap. But yeah, I mean, I always hate the cap mentality. It literally never really works. There are a very limited amount of situations where I would recommend capping. Usually it's to pressure the opponents to come back, because you're kind of like well, I will just cap if you don't actually come back and try and defend the base, and then you'll lose. So they have to do something, otherwise they'll just know that you're going to get in the cap. And of course it would just be boring, which sometimes you just have to do, because yes, I mean, the enemy team don't actually come back and trying to chase down a light tank that's left alive if there's only 1 or 2 of you left alive, and you're in slow tanks that you can't actually chase it down with, and it could just run and then maybe get a win or something like that. Then yeah, maybe that's a good idea, but for 99% of people that end up in the cap circle, it's not worth it. You end up with less XP than if you take out all of the tanks on the enemy team, and of course you limit yourself to being able to get no more damage as soon as you decide you're getting in that cap circle. Whereas if you try and push and deal extra damage, you're of course going to get more XP, you're going to get more damage, you're going to go up on your marks of excellence, and it is one of the key reasons why some people never end up actually getting more marks of excellence, because they're always thinking about, well, I should just get in the cap. And also a common thing that you see with people that decide not to get in the cap, or to get in the cap even, is that, oh, well, a win's a win. And it's like, yeah, but how come you as a player have significantly less win rate than the majority of other players? And it's because often they'll jump in the cap circle, avoiding the fact that they could be helping their team with the rest of the tanks. Then those rest of those tanks come and actually take out all of the team when they shouldn't have, because they should have had team support from the cappers. Then they go back, reset the base, and you end up losing. I mean, I have lost by capping more than I have by not capping. That is literally no cap, if you get what I mean. So yeah, I mean, there's a reason why you should always be thinking about getting defender medals as opposed to getting invader medals in World of Tanks. Yeah, it's just a much better way of thinking, and of course it gives you experience with fighting other players, which you miss out on when you do get into the cap. So that's kind of my methodology around it. You will end up getting better overall, much more than if you do decide to cap in the majority of situations, other than a couple. And I mean, there are genuinely, I had played 1,000 games without capping before. Genuinely 1,000 games without capping. And yeah, hopefully that was a good addition to this video. I know it detracted from the tank, but you saw what the tank could do. You can see how much damage it does, and it's very, very good at doing that. And yeah, you should always try and make sure that you get yourself into a nice position with it. It's very good at being able to deal a ton of damage, and of course stopping those cappers, which we've been talking about in this last half of this video. But of course I'm very interested to see what you guys think. Yes, I agree, there are some situations where capping is good, but the vast majority it's not worth it, and you end up with more XP, which saves you you know, being able to essentially grind more games in every tank that you play, because you ended up capping rather than getting more XP. You end up getting less marks of excellence, and you end up just feeling less rewarding. I mean, it's so unrewarding when you jump into the cap circle and get a win from that, as opposed to, you know, actually taking out all of the tanks. But that's just my opinion. I'm very interested to see what you guys think. Am I completely wrong? I'm sure there's some people that think that I am completely wrong, but you know, there's a reason why I think it's a very good training exercise to not always just go in the cap circle, and you'll learn a whole lot more from those one-on-one engagements at the end, where you can practice your shooting, your aiming, and of course dealing with opponents that don't really matter, because you're going to win the game anyway. But yeah, that's my kind of 2 cents on the matter. That was the TO7 Black, a very, very strong tank, and I really enjoyed playing it, and I wanted to show it to you guys and also talk about that cap circle, which was why this whole videos and stuff on the channel come about, is just to educate and of course try and inform give you a bit of information as to learn the game and of course have fun on the game, because it isn't just all about dealing the most damage, having the highest win rate or performing at the highest WNA, if you know what that means. Anyway, moving on, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to leave me any questions, queries in the comment section down below, and I will see you there and be answering your comments later on. Goodbye.